Hi guys, welcome to Root Stem, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I go around about cleaning my brushes. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining us. In today's video I'm going to be doing kind of like a basics sort of video. I'm going to try, I think I did that, I did a gems one not long ago where it was rather than looking at an entire model, we're just looking at a particular thing to do, either like with wet palettes or with some airbrushing. I'm going to kind of do a basic series, I think, for the rest of this year, simply because when I started, we'd never got like a training video like this. I'm quite old, so there wouldn't have been a training video like this, because YouTube wasn't a thing, because I am that old. But I'm coming across some of the more newer players and newer modelers that are actually out there. A lot of them still, you can go online and you can find all these great tutorials, but quite a few of the basic tutorials don't really speak to you about a lot of the basics or a lot of the easier ways of doing things. I like to sometimes have a look around, and there seems to be an old guard of this is how you've always done it, so therefore this is how you should do it. And it seems to be a bit of an old guard of, if it's difficult to do, that's how it should be done. No, it shouldn't be. It should be something that is incredibly easy to do. And if there's a product out there that makes it easy, that's even better. Use that particular product. Don't sit there going, I don't like doing this because it's so difficult, because it's suddenly become gatekeeping. Can't stand it. So in this video today, what we're going to do is to have a look at and just kind of show you and teach you what I do with the brushes once I've finished a bit of a project. Now, you should really, clean your brushes after every session, but it can take time, and sometimes you've not used them that often. I don't do that. I tend to do it when if I've had a heavy day of doing it, then I'll clean my brushes. If I've not cleaned them for a couple of days, if I've been working on stuff for a couple of days, I'm not cleaning them, then of course I'll clean them. And if I've done I always end up cleaning them at the end of a project, regardless, because once I've done the project, I feel a little sense of relief and go and make myself a cup of tea, etc. And then of course I'll just come away and all the brushes will then need cleaning. Now, what products I use to clean my brushes is I get some Masters brush cleaner and preserver. This is one for me. Again, there's other people out there that will probably have their own type of techniques, but I use it's like a brush soap. There you go. So it's a bit like a brush soap you just rinse the bristles into. Now, I like to use really hot water. Some people don't. They say that it can ruin the brushes. I've not found that. The brushes I'm currently using are a mixture of Atelier and some Citadel brushes. There's also all sorts of some homebrew brushes and all sorts in here that I like to use on my projects. As you can see, there's a variety of different sizes, different styles of brush. Some old, like of course that one is really pretty old, and it's like, what is it supposed to be used for? Well, it's pretty good when I'm putting some paint into an airbrush, or it's pretty good when I'm using it to cover a large area, or again just put some paint into a wet palette, something of that nature. This one's a bit of an older one of these, in the size 3. The bristles are fading, it is separating, but it's still good for doing like dog's body work that might damage some of your brushes. This is what I'm keeping. And of course, these are one of my favorites. I quite like using this size 3. It's got a really nice point to it, but it also gives good coverage. And some of my favorites is the small basing brush by Citadel. I use these a lot because I find that they actually have a really good tip when looked after, and of course do give good coverage. I've got some really thin brushes, if you can see that on there as well, some nice tips on those. And I use the brush cleaner to try and clean them. I also use Green Stuff World's brush repair gel So once I've cleaned it, I use this stuff, and this keeps the point nice and straight, and it sort of like stops it from degrading. Some of the Citadel brushes, if you don't clean them properly, they will degrade. They can degrade pretty quickly. I buy brushes, I do buy brushes on often, but I will use them until they are properly dead, and then I will get some more. I don't have the most expensive brushes because I will be terrified of destroying them, but I also don't get the cheapest brushes. I think sometimes the cheaper the brush tends to be a little bit on the crap side. These, they're decent prices, and they're quite hard wearing and good for miniature painting. I also need to have some water, so I actually do boil the kettle for this. So I'm going to get myself some hot water. So I've got my water. It is quite warm, but of course if you leave it for a minute or two, it will start to cool down. And what I tend to do when doing this, because this can be actually quite intimidating if you don't know what you're doing. One of my favourite things to do with this is to literally start with the bigger ones first. So I'm going to use the brush that is most damaged, and the reason I'm going to use that, because that's going to create the nice lather that the smaller brushes can't really create. I'll make sure I can get down there. Of course, once you've cleaned it, just dry it off on some tissue. I always try and put the brushes to one side. So once you've done that with a larger brush, you then get your smaller brushes. Make sure that the bristles are nice and soft, and then just kind of swirl it in there. Now you can swirl it around the side, you can swirl it in the middle. Just make sure that you are getting a good chunk of that brush soap onto that brush. You want to try and make sure that every bit, don't get me wrong, when you're using your brushes, you don't want paint to get into the right down to, I think it's called the farrow. But if you do, unfortunately, sometimes those things happen, especially if you lend your brushes to smaller people. And you just keep on doing that. So I've got the majority of my brushes done and cleaned off. Now there is a couple that some of the paint is quite stubborn. It doesn't seem to want to go away. So I'm going to leave the soap on it overnight, and then I'm going to come back to it with some warm water in the morning. Hopefully that will take all the sort of like, it'll get deep into the brushes, into the bristles of the brush, and of course should be able to remove any of the paint that's causing me issues and problems. After I have done this, after I've cleaned all the brushes that I have used, I then kind of get my palette. I mean, this really needs clean, but I turn it upside down and I get the brush gel. Now, this stuff does make it dry. I'm going to get everything out. But it does make the bristles kind of dry hard to a point, but it does repair them. It does actually try and keep them as pointy as they possibly can be. So I'll just put a little bit down. There we go. And I'll demonstrate on this sort of base brush here. Just a little bit of the old water. Then, as you can see, if you can see that there, if I can just make the... It's actually starting to separate just a little bit. It's not its usual pointy self. So, hopefully, by using the brush gel, and what you do is that you kind of just roll it in. So roll it into the gel and you're rolling it into a point. And once you've done that, put it to one side, get your other brush, a little bit of water, you do the same with that one. And then again, put it to the side and just keep continuing until all of your brushes have been put through the brush repair gel. Now, I like to keep them on top of my wet palette, mainly so that I can have the bristles sticking off the edge, and then we just let the bristles dry. Once the bristles are dry, when you come to reuse it, like soak in the water for a little bit, and then of course it'll come out of the repair gel, and with that you'll be able to just keep using them as if they were brand new. So hopefully this gives you a good helping hand, guys. It allows you to start cleaning your brushes properly, meaning that, I know it sounds daft, you got to buy the repair gel and you got to buy the soap, but the soap and the repair gel is probably cheaper than continuing to keep buying new brushes all the time. It's not going to stop your brushes from getting worn out, because that, you know, they will get worn out. Everything does, unfortunately, in this world. But it does mean that it will give them a lot longer life, meaning that you will be spending less pennies, as it were, on your brushes. Well, thank you very much for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button if you do want to see more. I'm going to be doing some more sort of basic beginners tutorial stuff. It's going to be quite random what type of content's going to come out, but I'm going to try and keep it all into one playlist, so you can keep referring back to it if you need to. Mainly because I'm doing this mainly because I've got a hell of a lot of friends that are starting back up again, and it's just nice for them to be able to see something, and of course just to have some sort of reference or content that means they are not messing around, flummoxing in the dark and getting frustrated all the time. Because I'll be honest with you, that puts people off from playing, it puts people off from the modelling aspect, the works. So hopefully this will alleviate some of those problems, and of course we'll be able to teach some of the new guys and gals going forward. Well, thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next time.